keynote speech of today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here with this great audience, a lot of experts here. As it was mentioned, we are very pleased to invest in Switzerland, especially also in the Canton Vaud, I think, and participating also with the Trèves Valley. I think it's definitely an initiative that at Fortinet we do see a lot of value here. So, and innovation starts by startups. So I think there is a lot of great idea that I think we need to continue to go against the massive challenge that we're all facing from I'll say, a cybercrime perspective. So I'm not planning to give you I will say a sales pitch or a product speech, because I'm sure you may know the product and that's not what you want. We try to, of course, give you a bit of what we do see globally as a cybersecurity technology leaders in and more the global perspective in terms of the challenge. How we, in fact, at Fortinet, we try to go and help on this difficult journey on fighting against cybercrimes. And then providing a bit more detail about how we collect and how we able to provide the value. And that's about the FortiGuard labs. We have this kind of jewel inside the Fortinet, which is not always known. And then more specifically about the threat landscape, talking about what's going on from at least the data we collect in Switzerland, and what is the prediction, at least that the analysts that working for us are foreseen in the next future. And last but not least, it's talking about collaboration, because the vision that we have is that we need to be all together, from the end user, from the partners, from the vendors like us, but from also the public and the private, to tight and create an ecosystem to fight against the cybercrime. Because we need everyone, and we need to act fast, and we need to be able to go against them and not just be passive and try to build a nice, I will say, protection. It will not be enough. So starting a bit more with the, let's say, the journey. In one hand, you have this significant challenge that even at Fortinet, but I'm sure that all organizations, whatever is public or private, are facing. So you have the CIO or the CISO of the organization. They are in kind of an infrastructure evolution. So their task is to really, in fact, evolve with this business critical initiative, such as the securing and connecting the world from anywhere. And that was, of course, accelerated by the pandemic, as we have all worked from home, and that's becoming like the standard. So there's a massive challenge here. It's also disrupted by the fact that the application has moved from the historical center of the corporate networks to now a more distributed location, and that can be the edge or can be the cloud, which create, of course, more complexity for the CISO and the CIO to manage the data and to access to the data. It's also tried to accelerate, in fact, this digital transformation, because the benefit is for company or public is to, of course, be more efficient and be more relevant. So there's no other way, in fact, to become, in fact, fully digitalized, which creates a lot of these challenges. And the last, which is another element, we have seen, in fact, the need for securing our operation technology environment or critical infrastructure, as they are converging with IT and they are connected. And I'm sure you already seen they are one of the most targeted, in fact, environment, because they are very vulnerable, using very old system and easy to attack. So that's a big challenge from one side, which is really overall, in fact, the big trends. On the other side, from the, let's say, the attacker side, we see the massive threat landscape that continue to evolve, and the cyber risk is escalating for all organizations. As the cybercrime converge with advanced persistence threat methods, the cyber criminals are finding ways to weaponize new technology at scale to enable more disruption and also destruction. And I'll share a bit some of what the new attacks and what they're using, in fact, to create this massive impact on our networks. And at the same time, they are spending more time on recognitions of to attempt, in fact, the evade detections, intelligence, and control. So all this means there is more cyber risk, and that continue to escalate to the CISO, and we just need to be very pragmatic, move fast, and try to, of course, handle this challenge overall. So at Fortinet, we try to answer to this challenge, and that's, one of the challenges is the complexity, because when you look from what has been built for the last 20 years, we have been answering by some of the new challenge by putting a new technology with try to resolve the problem, but that's led to a very, very complex, in fact, security network infrastructure, which is almost impossible to manage. So there's a need, in fact, for reducing this complexity and of course, to support a bit with this consolidation. So by focusing on consolidating vendors and point product across both the security and the networking, organization can reduce, in fact, the complexity and to close the security gap which are inherent to this previous, I will say, environment. So, and they can improve operational efficiency. They can optimize user experience. They can also accelerate the outcome. These three, I will say, concepts to achieve consolidation are first the consolidation of networking and security into a secure networking solution. And we have seen a lot of, I will say, success, especially when you talk about refreshing the edge. And there's a lot of edge on applying what we call the secure SD1 or secure SD branch, which is automating, in fact, the security and the networking at the edge without necessarily having IT experts. It's also consolidating the point product into an integrated cybersecurity platform. And what we mean here, that's also confirmed by Gartner, with the mesh architecture, is really try to reduce the main core element. Of course, you need an ecosystem where you can plug additional, I will say, solution that can really fortify the entire approach. But there's now a big trend, of course, on try to reduce this complexity that's been built. And then, of course, is to also constantly applying, in fact, threat intelligence into these kind of security services. And that's very critical, because at the end, if you have systems that are not updated on a daily or on an hourly matters, that the value is very limited. So, as Fortinet tried to, of course, evolve here, and we are a cybersecurity leader in this space. Just to give a bit of perspective, the company has sold about 10 million network security appliances worldwide in almost like 90 countries. So we are able to use those security sensors to collect data and field back, in fact, all the threat intelligence. And we are, of course, growing still at a very high pacing, wide at a very big scale, because last year we did about 5.6 billion and we're growing at 30%. So the need for this consolidation and the platform is very, very critical. But on top of, let's say, the business aspect of Fortinet, it's also our duty to help make the world safer and more sustainable. So, and this is why beyond the innovation and technology that we provide, we try to reduce some of the environmental impact and the footprint, as well as try to address the cybersecurity skill gap that we are all facing, and that's even coming with a more challenge, and also try to foster the collaboration between the public and private sector. So on the carbon impact, just because we continue to develop specific, I will say, dedicated appliance like it's similar to the graphic area, but we are able to deliver a very high throughput in terms of security throughput for data center, leveraging our ASIC technology, which means less cooling, less security, less space. So here we try to reduce the data center carbon impact. We also, from the beginning of our product chain, building, in fact, a much more sustainable, in fact, environment. So we committed to be neutral, carbon neutral by 2030. The skill gap that we're all facing here again. Yeah, it was already. On the skill gap, we have been creating, in fact, an academy, in fact, back to almost like 20, sorry, was, I didn't see the slide, was back in 2010, and creating, in fact, the NEC Academy. And here, the purpose was try to help, in fact, on this massive challenge. We do not have enough experts like you, and we need more. We need to create a vocation for young people to embrace cybersecurity, I will say, career. And so we have built this NEC certification where We already certify more than 1 million, in fact, people using that, and we of course continue to expand. We have multiple initiatives, especially one with the World Economic Forum, together with the Salesforce e-learning platform, where we give for free, in fact, access to this first two level of learning journey, and try to, of course, create, in fact, more people joining here this space. So, and we will, of course, continue on this space. And last mile is about the threat intelligence and, of course, engagement in terms of collaborating between the public and private and inside the private. So I'll talk a bit more later on this aspect. Talking about, before going on the Swiss and the visibility we do see from a threat evolution in Switzerland, a bit more talking about how we are collecting and how we are using, in fact, the threat and intelligence here. So FortiGuard Lab has been started from the beginning of the company back to 2006. And as I was mentioning, they use this 10 million appliance as a sensor to collect, in fact, data across all the different geos and all the different vertical and departments. And that's really fueling, in fact, a lot of this data. We have about a bit more than 500 threat analysts that are working and try to, of course, leverage this data. But as you can imagine, this is not enough, because the volume that we do see on a daily basis, we are processing about 200 billion threat events per day in the FortiGuard Lab. So we are using, of course, machine learning and intelligent artificial intelligence to, of course, help this threat researcher on threating, in fact, evaluating all the volumes and be able to deliver, in fact, the services. And as you can see, we also collaborate in one side with many others and try to share this information, because I think it's, even we have a nice, I will say, a collector of system, but others as also maybe a local. So the idea is that we can share, and it's not just one way. We really try to, of course, use in a bilateral way this sharing information. And we use all this information to feed, in fact, what we call the fabric, which is our platform. And many elements of this platform are, in fact, using the technology. On maybe just as an example, since the beginning of FortiGuard Labs, we have been focusing on trying to discover zero-day attacks. And our zero-day program is one of the most comprehensive in the industry. In fact, it was since now almost 15 years, and we have been following what we call the responsible disclosure ethic. What we mean by responsible disclosure is that we work with vendors to fix the flow together before malicious attacker leverage it. And we have about nearly from 1,000, in fact, zero-day attacks already from the beginning. And we have been, of course, I will say, responsibly disclosed since the 2006. We created partnerships and virtual patch using our IPS engine. And we protect system both before they have been even patches from the vendors. And we started, of course, partnership with those vendors. Microsoft is the one which, of course, has been highly targeted since the beginning. And now we have about 80 partners where we focus and deliver, in fact, those information and vulnerability visibility in terms of zero-day attacks. And now we focus also on the operational technology. Fortinet has been, since now 5 years, really looking about this area, which was converging to the IT. And we have been together partnership with companies like Siemens and Schneider Electric, or ABB and GE in the US. And we already found almost 45 zero-day vulnerability in this OT environment, which of course help to prevent problems here. The other aspect is about how we definitely leverage, in fact, within the FortiGuard Labs, this machine learning and AI technology. So we have been pioneering since almost like 12 years using this technology, and that's it's used, in fact, internally, of course, on the FortiGuard Labs. And as I highlighted, in fact, it's creates a lot of value for the technology that our customer is using. We evaluate that the virtual analyst, let's call it, using the machine learning, we estimate that alleviate about 10 headcounts from the SOC. So typically using more machine learning, in fact, you are able to, of course, avoid having too much people that are difficult to find. And effective machine learning required data, they require power, and they require times. Time is the most critical element, and is something that we realized a long time ago. And when you apply this AI and machine learning to the complete end-to-end, from the endpoint solution, from the sandbox, from the EDR, XDR, the platform, and the cloud, you have a very effective, in fact, time to response. And the challenge is really to make sure that we are able to prevent on time as those attacks are becoming massive and creating, in fact, disruption. And that's a very effective approach against ransomware, but as well as Wiper, as the new risk is higher, and the prevention is very critical here. The team is also on a daily basis looking about what's going on the dark web and the coverage and especially on the cyber criminal aspect. So there is a crime as a services which is flourishing right now by selling the use of the infrastructure, the tools, and the resource on the dark web. This is a portfolio that's continued to expand, and there has been for over a decade. Some examples are DDoS as a services, phishing services, stolen credential for sales, and ransomware as a services. And those kits are available to affiliates, young people they can use without too much technical expertise and be able to continue without expanding the attack surface. We have a threat hunting practice every day where we monitor the dark web and the chatter. We are looking for new kits that have been sold and other indicators that we can use to alert potential victims. This is accessible, in fact, through an on-demand portal called 40 Recon. We monitor alert, and we, of course, provide some inquiry capability around those elements on the dark web. Now, let's talk about a bit more what we do see from the Switzerland perspective. And of course, we have on the website, and we share, in fact, data a bit more globally, but Switzerland is, of course, very sensitive as well. So what we have observed, in fact, is that back in 2022, Switzerland has been the number 4 country in terms of overall attacks in the EMEA region. So it's roughly about 9% of the worldwide attacks. So it's a very targeted country, mostly because there is a lot of strong organization, big headquarters, and of course, those have been widely targeted. We're talking about 45 billions of total threats against the 520 billions worldwide that we have seen. What we have also seen is that there was a big wave in Q1 2022, which was related to the Log4j, which is still remain a big threat today. In Q4, the wave that we have seen in Switzerland was more related to IoT and OT, and specifically Mirai botnet. And the number 1 attack segment for Mirai was the manufacturing. So definitely, as you can see, a lot of activity, and that has been, of course, evolving depending on the situation. Ransomware still, of course, a very important aspect of all the attack we do see, especially also in Switzerland, and more due to the ransomware as a services model that employ business affiliate partners to distribute the attack campaign, and they get commission, so they get paid by commission. What is interesting here is that previously this model had about 1,000 partners. They try to reduce right now and be more selective and now focusing a bit more on the VLE segment, so the very large enterprise segment, and as well as the OT and manufacturing segment. So, and inside this OT, manufacturing is number 1 targeted segment. Recently, the trend in terms of the cyber criminal are becoming more selective. So they move from, let's say, 100 kind of affiliate partner to about, 1,000 to about 100 right now. And the ransomware attack has been also much more targeted than before. So, that as a consequence, we do see that the ransomware demand, is moving from a 7-digit ransom to an 8-digit, so a very big amount that have been asked to be paid by the attacker. What we have seen is that overall the ransomware attack that FortiGuard Lab has seen is that in 2022, 74% of those ransomware was financial crime related, and the rest was more accounting for espionage, disruption, fireware, and activism. But 82% of all the financial crime are still ransomware related. So whatever the volumes are slightly decreasing, as you can see, it's only 16%, or say year-over-year growth. From a money perspective, it's still, in fact, the massive, element that are leveraged by the attackers. So we still see an average about 400 million monthly ransomware attack in the second half of 2022. Still very, very positive. So talking about some of the FortiGuard Lab prediction, back in as what we have seen, in fact, in the last few quarters, and we do see an evolution in 2023. There's a massive growth of what they call the Wiper Malware. So from Q4 2022, one of our predictions was to continue to grow in the Wiper Malware, and we have seen a lot of strong activity, in fact, currently. Wiper malware is destructive in nature compared to the ransomware where they encrypt. Wiper will destruct, so there's no way you can, in fact, recover from the data. So by nature, much more threatful for the attacker and for the people that have been targeted. It wiped disk, it wiped system instead of using decryption. And Wiper malware is starting to be utilized by cybercriminal, so the volumes and the target are increasing. It's a new component of the playbook for cybercriminals, since they can use as a threat strategy when forcing organizations to pay ransom demand. As you can see, there is overall about 16 new Wiper malware weapons that has been developed in 2022. This is unprecedented. The previous year we had only one per year. So definitely a big, I will say, activity. In the first half of 2022, all the Wiper threats was related to one target in Ukraine. But however, the code has been now obtained and used in other attacks that we have observed. And in the second half of 2022, cybercriminals are starting to use, in fact, Wiper threats. Some are even now open source and available for download. The result of this Wiper being accessible, in fact, it copy and commoditize, we have seen tremendous, in fact, volumes and target now. Not just isolated to targeted the Ukraine, but on average, we've seen about 13,000 Wiper attacks on a monthly basis, especially what we have seen in Q4. So it's almost a 53% quarter-to-quarter increase. So definitely on top of this ransomware, with this malware is becoming, in fact, a big tools for them. Wiper are using, in fact, of course, they are targeting for the Windows, but not only Windows. They are built for Linux, Unix, Solaris. So they are very effective in critical infrastructure and OT environment. So that's why we therefore predict a bit more activity, especially on this operation technology, and that the cybercriminal will leverage. Another, I will say, prediction is about what we call the crime as a services. As ransom as a service model has been prolific, especially over the last 5 years, we expect cybercriminals to expand their portfolio, now offering weaponized use of machine learning using AI. As an example, the reconnaissance as a services or deepfake as a services, they typically use tools that such as Chat GPT or Chat GP4 to leverage, in fact, and build, in fact, more this ransom as a services. The other element that we do see is this converging in terms of this threat landscape. Typically, there was two categories in terms of threat actors. One was the advanced persistent threat groups. They are funded, run by nation state, and highly sophisticated. Targeted, they can take almost a year to develop, in fact, the attacks. They traditionally focus on critical infrastructure. On the other side, you have these cybercrime groups. They have been privately held, funded, but now quite wealthy due to the profit of this ransomware attack. and organized criminal enterprise. After a year of this profiting, they are now focusing on ransomware, laundering funds, crime as a services, and of course, targeting traditional IT environment. What we are observing is that there is a convergence of the two groups, and they are now working together to share infrastructure, share targets, and sponsorship attacks. This convergence phenomena we are calling advanced persistence cybercrime. So this means that now cybercriminals are also now switching focus, targeted more sophisticated attack using Wiper, and they can also now evilly targeting critical infrastructure. It is a very large shift that we do see in the cybercriminal aspect. That's count almost for 75% of the overall attack we do see. And this is really this kind of evolution and conversion that from these two kind of threat actors that we are forcing behind the scene. So overall, very challenging. What we have to face against, they are also having a lot of money, very, very efficient in terms of using the latest technology like we do to protect ourselves. So we're expecting a much more complex future to deal in terms of the attacks. Now, talking about how we can continue, of course, to fight against these challenges. And it's about talking the collaboration. So we have a lot of initiative within the private sector, but at Fortinet, we do see that it's critical that we are also extending this collaboration and partnership between the public and the private. The main reason is that we have been building, in fact, fortress. We are under attack, but we are not able to go against the cyber criminal, mostly because they are operating in countries where law enforcement is not necessarily the same as the targeted company, and the coordination worldwide is not there. So that's why we need to create, in fact, this collaboration moving forward. So at Fortinet, we have seen this as a very critical piece, which takes time. We started collaboration with the World Economic Forum, we was a founding member of the division called the C4C, the Center for Cyber Security at the WEF. And we have been starting a new project which called the Cybercrime Atlas project. And this was, in fact, funded inside the C4C. We pull about 20 analysts there that joined the project, and about 1,000 hours of overall, I will say, time to spend and researching, and of course, open source intelligence. The goal was to create a map of cybercrime to be developed and to identify on all angle and point of description, so we can form kind of a chain of description and halt the cyber criminal in the supply chain. So in Q1 this year, 2023, during the Davos World Economic Forum, Fortinet has announced becoming a founding partner of this Cybercrime Atlas initiative, together with Microsoft, the Banco Santander's Bank, and PayPal. And the roadmap is to, of course, create this governance, staff, resource, funding. So this started, in fact, in Q1. The mission of this Atlas is to mobilize a community of leading organizations and a network of cyber initiative and subject matter experts that can actively support and contribute to the description of cybercrime. We want to build an actionable intelligence about cyber criminal landscape, actors, ecosystem, infrastructure. And also we want to identify and communicate description opportunity, establishing in an action-oriented community, and coordinate the ecosystem-wide description effort with interdiction, technical, financial, legal action, civil action, the strategic insight, and of course creating, in fact, an overall policy combination. So it's just the beginning, and we expect, of course, to have more members joining to recreate, in fact, this situation. Another, I will say, example about the collaboration that is needed, and more on the private sector. I was sharing about the FortiGuard labs and how we are collecting and generating a lot of the data that we share. Fortinet was the original co-founder of the Cyber Threat Alliance back in 2014. And today there's about 35 members. As you can see, a lot of members that are acting on the cybersecurity space, and most of these members are competitors. So the goal here is that we can develop and share this leading intelligence platform and receive trusted information prior the publication from even competitor. And we are, of course, able to collaborate and share, leveraging all of these technology vendor in terms of improving, in fact, the threat intelligence. And we want to remain very competitive in terms of technology, so we make our threat intelligence actionable and apply to the fabric that we are selling. Another example about this public and private collaboration is about the MIT. So Fortinet is a research partner with the MIT R&D, and we have already two published threat intelligence projects with them, and we have more coming. We are focusing on advancing the state of the art and the state of the practice in the threat information defense. The systematic application of deep understanding and advanced threat craft and technology to protect against mitigate the cyber attacks. So this is really an important step that we have been moving forward. And last, it's about collaborating with more, let's say, the cyber police that we do see that have been created in many countries. So you need an organization that, of course, we can leverage to go against the attacker. Fortinet has been engaged with Interpol since 2015. Fortinet became what they call a member of Interpol Gateway back to 2018. And we have been taken down a 60 million business email compromise ring in Nigeria, which led to a successful arrest and prosecution thanks to the intelligence that we have shared with our Polygon labs. And more recently, we have been working with them to take down the prolific ransomware gangs. The goal here is that we have information we can share, and the partnership we have with Interpol and the partnership that they have with the local police and the cyber defense they are building in each country will allow to potentially go against them and start arresting. So this is a very important, I would say, milestone. And we have seen that in this public sector, a lot of investment are now driving, in fact, more resource to help, in fact, try to catch those people. So those are overall, I will say, some of the public and private partnership example that we do see at Fortinet as a key element to fight against the cyber criminal. So just to maybe summarize for us is, yes, we are, of course, a leading vendor in this space, but we need everyone. We need everyone in this room. We need, of course, the end user. We need to create this tight relationship so we can react on time or even anticipate using some of the technology we have been sharing. And we need, of course, the public sector to, of course, becoming very proactive if we want to fight again and not just be passive, but be becoming proactive. So that's the end of my presentation. I think if you have any question, I think we'll be happy to answer. There's one here. Yeah. Not too technical. In case I'll ask one of the engineers to say it. Yeah, there's a micro coming.
Thank you for the presentation. This question is not a critical question. You say, at the end, we need all of you. But we never know in this kind of events who belongs to the crime organizations. So we don't know who in this room is in the dark side. So it's always the same. I always ask the same question, but nobody put any kind of control on who is here. It's just a comment.
Thank you. It's a good question. Of course, assuming that when such of event is organized, it's of course to partner and try to help on this challenge. You may have insider. That's part of the life, and it will be very difficult to check who is the insider, maybe working on the dark side. That's part of the nature. So I don't think there is too much a way to do this kind of selection. What we hope, because we have this positive hope, is that most of the people here are, of course, trying to help and fight. The challenge we have, and that's also a consequence on the evolution for let's say, what we have to deal in from securing the user and the data. In the past, it was kind of a trusted environment, which was inside the corporate or inside the public sector corporate. So you can no longer, in fact, build your security based on this statement. So now the evolution is to build what we call a zero trust architecture. We mean zero trust means that no one can be trusted. and you need to be able to identify the user, and you need to be able to look about where the data is stored and the behavior. What is the behavior of the user? What's the kind of information they are using? Whatever they will be working from home, working from inside. So all these element now leveraging technology and the platform allow, in fact, to help on understanding, in fact, the what's going on. And that's just an evolution, of course, what need to be built in the next 3-4 years. But yes, will be attacker and insider for sure. But I'm very confident and positive about the mobilization that public sector and government are taking now and understanding, in fact, the massive future risk that we are all facing. So I think it should be a positive outcome in the future. Oh, sorry.
Actually, I got two questions. Question number one is quite simple, similar to the question before. How can I engage? Do you have a MISP instance where I can subscribe to? Do you share your intelligence? How can I collaborate with you? That's question number one. And the second question, given that this was supposed to be a non-marketing but was a marketing talk, can you spend a little bit of more time about the converging threat landscape and say more about the threat actors which you're observing, whether they converge?
Well, I try to not to be, my role at Fortinet, of course, I'm in charge of developing the company and the business. We was expecting also to have a bit more kind of very technical people that can answer on this threat evolution. We have leading on the FortiGuard lab, and fortunately, they couldn't make it. So, but there will be potentially some people they can answer on this second question. On the first question is that so you can reach out to us on the FortiGuard labs, depending on how you want to collaborate. If you want to,
free threat intel.
Yeah, threat intel. If you want to have access to the threat intel, that's the FortiGuard lab. So typically, if you want to, of course, share your threat intel, because the idea is that we create community, and that's both way. That's typically reaching out to us on the FortiGuard labs.
Okay, thank you very much for not answering my question.
And for the technical aspect, I don't know if you want to answer anyone, or maybe we can take it aside, because okay. Don't see any more question. So thank you very much for listening, and hope you have a good day. Thanks.